Great. So welcome to tutorial number 3 on physiology. Number 3 on physiology. Okay. So we have examination of an isolated cardiomyocyte revealed that it didn't generate excitation impulse automatically. It didn't generate excitation impulse automatically. This cardiomyocyte was obtained from so what it means is that to generate impulse automatically, we've already discussed them. It's either the sinoarterial node, okay, or the AV node, or the atrioventricular node, or the bundle of His, or the Purkinje fibers. These are the centers for automaticity. These are the centers where impulses are generated. So if you look at the options over here, which one of them does not generate impulse automatically? We were thinking of what? Ventricles. We were thinking of what? Ventricles. So here we are thinking of C. All right, C. And once again, what is the rate for SA node? 60 to 80. AV node is 59 to 40. Bundle of His, 39 to 20. And then the Purkinje fibers below 19 or below 20. Below 20. That's just by the way. All right. This question has repeated again. Examination of a man established that the cardiac output is 3,500. That means CO is 3,500. Systolic output is what? 50. Systolic output is what? 50. So what will be the rates? What will be the heart rate? So this one you do at 3,500. That's the cardiac output all over what? The stroke volume or the systolic volume, which is what? 50. And your answer will be what? 70. Your answer will be what? 70. The same question we solved it yesterday. That's why I'm not going into the formulas again. So cardiac output is what? Systolic volume times HR or heart rate. So you do the maths. Again, as a result of continuous starvation, the rate increased. Glomerular filtration rate increased by what? 20%. It increased by 20%. And we said, what is the cause? It's because of what? Oncotic pressure. Oncotic pressure. So fluid will leave the vessel and it will be what? Excreted out. Fluid will leave the vessel. So here we are thinking of what? A decreased oncotic pressure. A decreased oncotic pressure. So we did it yesterday. They're just repeating the questions. A man who went for a ride on a runabout had amplification of heart rate, sweating and nausea. Sweating and nausea. Amplification, that means increase in heart rate, increase in sweating, and there's what? Nausea. What receptor stimulation is primarily connected with? Don't forget here, your clue here is what? A runabout. Runabout. Runabout is like a circle. Okay, so something like this, a runabout. So the person is moving here, the runabout. And what are the receptors for controlling circular movement? What are the receptors controlling circular movement? And here we are looking at for what? For vestibular receptors. Vestibular receptors. Vestibular receptors. Vestibular receptors. And sometimes you might not see runabout, you might see a revolving belt. A revolving belt. That means it is going round. A revolving belt. Revolving belt. Or sometimes you can see a carousel. C-A-R-O-U-S-E-L. A carousel. Carousel. All of these all mean what? Circular what? Movement. They all mean circular movement. And for that reason, we deal with what? With the vestibulocochlear or the vestibular receptors. The vestibular receptors. So your answer is E. Vestibular receptors. Vestibular receptors. All right. I remember I said something about negative 20, negative 25, 25, and stuff like that, if you can remember. So look at it. A man's intrapleural pressure is being measured. In what phase did a man hold his breath? And they are saying his pressure is what? 7.5. I talked about it yesterday. And we said for 7.5, we are thinking of quiet inspiration, quiet inspiration, quiet inspiration. So here we're looking for what? For quiet inspiration, quiet inspiration. All right, quiet inspiration. The atria of an experimental animal was superdistended by the blood that resulted in a decreased ray absorption. There is decreased in ray absorption, decreased, and also water in the renal tubule. This can be explained by the influence of what factor upon the kidneys. What factor upon the kidneys will lead to decreased ray absorption of sodium? And over here, you know that when renin-angiotensin system is, when the RAS system are activated, what happens is that there will be a reabsorption of sodium, or there will be a retention of sodium. So that means that all over here, aldosterone, you cannot go for it. Renin, angiotensin, you can never go for them. You can't go for them. So over here, we are looking at for what? For natriuretic hormone. Natriuretic, that means sodium excreting hormone. Sodium excreting hormone. Sodium excreting hormone. And this promotes excretion of water and sodium. It promotes the excretion of water and sodium. Water and sodium. So here you are looking at what? At the natriuretic hormone. Natriuretic hormone. Now, in vasopressin, also known as antidiuretic hormone, it deals with what? With water. Antidiuretic hormone. So ADH. Antidiuretic. That one deals mainly with water. But if you want to talk about sodium and water, you are looking at for what? For natriuretic hormone. And you know that anywhere sodium will move, water also moves towards. Water also moves towards. So here we are looking at for A, natriuretic hormone. That is sodium excreting hormone. We have a middle-aged man who went to a foreign country because he had been offered a job. However, he had been unemployed for quite a long time. What endocrine glands were exhausted most of all in this man? Look, this person has traveled all the way for a job, and now he has been unemployed. So what do you think will be happening to this person? Of course, this person will be stressed up. This person will be stressed up. So unemployment, of course, will lead to psycho-emotional stress. Psycho-emotional stress. And the main stress organ in the body is the adrenal gland. The main stress organ in the body is the adrenal gland. So you're looking at what? A. All right. A 60-year-old man, after cerebral hemorrhage, felt asleep for a long time. What damage of what structure caused this? First of all, you must know that the part of the CNS that controls sleep is what we call the reticular formation. The reticular formation is what is responsible for your sleep. Reticular formation. Reticular formation. And so therefore, when there is a problem with the reticular formation, which is also found in the CNS or the cerebrum, definitely there will be impaired sleep, or there will be oversleep. Oversleep. So over here, we are looking at for reticular formation. Reticular formation, because that is in control of sleep. Reticular formation. So your answer is A, reticular formation. A human body cools in water much faster than in air. Body cools in water much faster than in air. Yes. What way of heat emission in water is more efficient? Is more efficient. So over here, we are looking at what? Heat conduction. Don't forget the difference between heat radiation and then heat conduction. In heat radiation, it doesn't require any medium. It does not require any medium. Now, in heat conduction, it requires what? A medium. That's why sometimes when you are sweating or when you are very hot and you go and enter a cold shower, you feel so cool and calm. And it is much faster than you entering the fan or putting on the fan. The fan, it will take time for you to be what? To be chilled. It will take time for you to be chilled. So over here, we are referring to what? Conduction or heat conduction, which is a way in which the body eliminates heat by means of a direct contact with another object from a region of higher temperature to a region of lower temperature. Again, where heat is eliminated by means of direct contact with another object from a region of higher temperature to a region of lower temperature. So here we are looking for what? For conduction or heat conduction. And the key word here is what? Human body in water. All right. As a result of spinal cord trauma, a 33-year-old man has disturbed pain and temperature sensitivity. That is caused by damage of the following tract. So first of all, you need to know that the tract that is responsible for pain and temperature, we call it spinothalamic or spinothalamic tract. That's from the spine to the thalamus. Spinothalamic tract. That is responsible for pain and temperature. So if I touch you and you are feeling pain, know that there is your what? Spinothalamic tract working effectively and efficiently. So you are thinking of what? Spinothalamic tract. All right. After a surgery, a 36-year-old woman was given an intravenous injection of albumin. You are giving what? Albumin. So what does it mean? It means you are trying to increase the oncotic pressure in the cell. You are trying to increase the oncotic pressure in the cell. And then this has induced intensified water movement into the following direction. So imagine you are having your vessels over here. Look, this is your vessel, okay? And this is your what? Your interstitium. Or intercellular membrane. So what happens is that if you inject albumin, that means you are putting it what? Intravenous, that means into the veins. So you are increasing what? The sodium concentration. You are increasing the protein concentration. We said proteins are responsible for what? For oncotic pressure. So that means over here, oncotic pressure will be increased. And if oncotic pressure in the vessel is increased or in the capillary is increased, there will be movement of fluid from the intercellular into the capillary. Because more solute or more proteins are found in the vessel. So over here, we are looking at for what? From D. That is from the intercellular fluid, which is here, into what? The capillary, which is what? The vessel. So your answer is D. All right. A clinic observes a 49-year-old patient with significant prolongation of coagulation time. There is what? Problem with what? Coagulation time. GIT reveal what? Hemorrhages, and there's what? Hematomas. These symptoms might be explained by the deficiency of the following vitamin. Again, which vitamins are involved in coagulation? And your answer is what? Of course, vitamin K. We've done these things in the pharmacology and in biochemistry. So please, if you've not watched them, do well to watch them and you understand these things better. Vitamin K. And we said it is involved in what? In gamma carboxylation of clotting factors. In gamma carboxylation or carboxylation of clotting factors. In other words, it activates the clotting factors for them to perform their function effectively and efficiently. So over here, we are talking about what? Vitamin K. Examination of a patient revealed hyperkalemia and hypo. Hypo means low sodium, hyper means high potassium. So what low secretion, which the question is low secretion of which hormone cause these things? So the question is what can cause hyponatremia? It's when you don't secrete a lot of what? Aldosterone. When you don't secrete a lot of aldosterone, that means there will be low amount of what? Sodium in the blood. And when there's low sodium, there can be what? Hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia. So here we are looking for what? For aldosterone. Okay, because aldosterone is involved in what? In the secretion of sodium, or it helps in the retention of sodium in the blood vessels. So if they are not secreted enough, what it means is that sodium will be excreted from the blood. So your answer is A. Examination of a 43-year-old ephrenic patient. That means there is no what? Kidney. Revealed signs of what? Anemia. What is the cause of these symptoms? So this person has no kidney. It has no kidney. And don't forget, one of the major organs for production of red blood cells is the kidney. And the hormone is called erythropoietin. So erythropoietin are normally found in the kidney, or they are produced by the kidney. And these erythropoietin helps in the synthesis of RBCs, or the productions of red blood cells. So when there's no kidney, what it means is that erythropoietin will not be efficient or will not be produced. And if they're not produced, what happens? There will be a problem with RBCs, which is why this patient is suffering from anemia. So here we are talking about reduced synthesis of erythropoietins. So your answer is A. A man is being measured powered input on an empty stomach in the lying position under conditions of physical and psychic rest at a comfortable temperature. Power input will reach the maximum at what time? So what I'm trying to tell her is that at what time will your energy input be high? Yes. Usually in the evenings, your input goes very high. Because you are involved in a whole lot of activities during the day. So in the evening, your power or your energy is so high. So here we are looking at what? 5 to 6 p.m. 2 to 3 is still afternoon. But in the evening, your energy levels goes very high. Because by that time, all the food that you have eaten will have now gone through a process of what? Glycolysis to produce a whole lot of what? Energy to help you carry on during the day. That is why after exhibiting this kind of power or energy, you have to rest. That's why it is important for you to sleep at night. Okay. So your answer is B, 5 to 6 p.m. We discussed this a while ago. That's yesterday. They said when measuring the power input of a man by a method of indirect calorimetry, the following results were obtained. Oxygen consumption was 1,000 mils and carbon dioxide consumption was what? 800 mils. The man under examination has the following respiratory coefficient. So the question is, how do you solve respiratory coefficient? RQ. We said respiratory coefficient is equal to what? It's equal to volume of carbon dioxide over volume of what? Of oxygen. So this is equal to what? 1,000 divided by what? This is equal to 800 because carbon dioxide is 800. So this is equal to what? 800 divided by 1,000. And your answer is what? 0.8. And if you can remember, we said if the value is 1, then which food substance is being used? Carbohydrate. If it is 0.8, we are talking about what? We are talking about proteins. 0.7, we are talking about what? About fat. We discussed these things yesterday. So please do well to watch the videos yesterday. All right. So here, your answer is A, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. So this means that it is coming from what? Proteins. Proteins. So proteins were being what? Used in this patient. Again, while determining the power input of a patient organism, it was established that respiratory coefficient is equals to 1. Equals to 1. So if it's equal to 1, what comes to mind? Of course, carbohydrate. 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 0.7 is fat, 0.8 is proteins. So please take note once again. All right. You see, everything is linking. So if you understand it, it will help you. A patient has a disturbed absorption of fat hydrolysates. Fat. It might be caused by the deficiency of what? The question is what enzyme is responsible for fat digestion? And you already know it. You already know it. So basically, we are referring to what? Bile acid. Because bile acid helps in emulsification of fats. Bile acid helps in the emulsification of fat. Now, if these fats are not emulsified, they can be found in the stool. And excess or the presence of excess fat in stool, we call it steatorrhea. Steatorrhea. And we discuss this in our biochemistry presentation. So please, if you've not watched it, once again, do well to do that. Inhabitants of territories with cold climate have high content of adaptive thermoregulatory hormone. What hormone is it? Climate. So usually, what controls this kind of thing what controls the basal metabolic rate. The basal metabolic rate or cellular metabolic processes is controlled by thyroxine. They are all controlled by thyroxine. And thyroxine increases heat production in the body. It increases heat production in the body by either cellular metabolic processes or the basal metabolic rates. Basal metabolic rate. So here we are looking at what? For thyroxine. Don't forget, the person is in what? Territories with cold climate. So that means this thyroxine needs to be produced in large amount to produce heat to protect these people or the inhabitants, to protect them. So thyroxine is your answer. A concentrated solution of sodium chloride was intravenously injected into an animal. This caused a decrease in the reabsorption of sodium ions. Which of the following result changes? It is the result of the following changes of hormonal secretion. Changes of hormonal secretion. Again, what do you look out for? If they are mentioning sodium, what comes into your mind? You are thinking of what? Aldosterone. You are thinking of aldosterone. All right. So that means aldosterone is reduced. Aldosterone is reduced. If there's a reduction of sodium excretion, of course, that means sodium will have been high in the renal tubules, but it is not. So we have what? Aldosterone reduction. In aldosterone increase, that means there will be what? Absorption of what? Sodium. But in reduction, sodium will be excreted out. So your answer is D. Accelerated frequency of the heart rate and increased blood pressure were marked in a sportsman on the start before the competition. Influence of what part of the CNS can explain these changes? So what it means is what part of the brain controls heart rate and increase in blood pressure? What part of the heart controls all of these structures? What part of the heart? So that is the main focus for this, this question. So basically, So basically, we know that the medulla controls or is involved in what? In breathing, swallowing, and even heart rate. Heart rate. Responsible for what? For breathing, swallowing, and for heart rate. Heart rate. Heart rate. Now, the cerebellum is associated with what? Regulation and coordination of movement, posture, balance, and cardiac, respiratory, and vasomotor centers. That is the role of the cerebellum. So basically, for balance and for posture, balance and for posture. So over here, since they're talking about heart rate and then the blood pressure, we could have easily gone in for what? Medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, which is actually supposed to be the answer, the medulla oblongata. That is where all of these heart rate and increased blood pressure take place. But Krok says this is what? Large hemisphere or cortex of the large hemisphere. Cortex of the large hemisphere. All right. But your answer should have actually be A, the medulla oblongata. All right. This, but they like aldosterone too much. Look at it. People adapted to high external temperatures have such peculiarity. Profuse sweating. This is not sweating. You know, sweat contains what? Sodium and chloride. Now they are saying that in profuse sweating is not accompanied by loss of large volume of sodium chloride. That means that sodium chloride are not decreased due to the profuse sweating. So this is caused by the effect of the following hormone upon respiratory glands. So again, under what condition will have sodium being retained? Yes, you are thinking of what? When aldosterone is being secreted, it will lead to retention of sodium. So even despite the increase in sweating, potassium is still on its grounds. So your answer is aldosterone. During an experiment, the dorsal root of the spinal cord of an animal had been cut. What changes will be observed in the innervation? First of all, know that dorsal root controls what? Sensory nerves or sensory informations, whilst ventral controls what? Controls motor sensations. So what changes will be observed when this senses is cut off? Because it's responsible for what? For transmitting sensory information or sensory impulses. So over here, we are thinking of what? Sensitivity loss. Loss of sensitivity, because it deals with what? Sensitivity. All right. As a result of the destruction of a certain brainstem structures, an animal lost its orientative reflexes in response to strong photic stimuli. What structures? Now, photic simply means what? Light. Okay. So what structures were destroyed? Now, when we talk about orientative response or orientative reflexes, it is the same as quadrigeminal body. I'm saying this because you might be seeing them. It's as quadrigeminal body or quadrigeminal plate. They all mean the same. And we have two types. We have two inferior. So they're like this. So two superior, two inferior. Two superior, two inferior. That's what it's called quadrigeminal. That means four bodies are there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bodies are there. So we call it quadrigeminal bodies or quadrigeminal plate. And the two inferior ones, that is these ones, are responsible for hearing. These are responsible for what? For hearing. They are responsible for hearing. While the superior one is responsible for vision. This is responsible for vision. So inferior for hearing, superior for vision. Please write this down because you're going to meet it again. Again, if you have realized every question is being repeated, that is the beauty of understanding what you are doing. So we have what? Vision. And over here, we are talking about vision because photo has to do that with light through the eyes. So definitely we are looking at what? For anterior tuberculous of the trigeminal nerve. Don't forget, how do you call it? Superior also means what? Anterior, whilst inferior also means what? Posterior. So please take note. So posterior means inferior, and anterior means superior. Superior. All right. Same question, I guess. Photic stimuli. So again, we are referring to what? For tuberculosis of the trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve. As a result of change in the certain structures of the brainstem, an animal lost orientative reflexes. Orientative. And I said another name for orientative is, of course, quadrigeminal. Quadrigeminal. Also can be called what? Quadritubercular bodies. Don't forget they are what? Tubers, or they are tubercular in nature. So they all mean the same. Reticular formation again is for what? Is for sleep. Reticular formation is for sleep. Vestibular is for orientation or for movement in circular motions. You remember? Great. So here we're referring to what? Quadrigeminal or quadritubular bodies. Quadritubular bodies is the same thing. Osmotic pressure of a man's blood is 350. Standard is 300. That means that it is low, right? Then concentration of blood sugar, no, the blood plasma is low. First of it all will result in a high secretion of what? So when there's low amount of solute, what is happening? When there's low amount of solute in the, how do you call it? Sorry, it's high. There's too much of solute. Sorry. Osmotic pressure of a man's is 350. The standard is 300. That means that the blood solute level or plasma level or the osmotic pressure in the blood is higher than normal. It is higher than normal. So what happens? So what do you give in this kind of patient? And usually, first of all, you are thinking of a problem with anti-diuretic hormone. A problem with what? Anti-diuretic hormone. But if the plasma is concentrated, what it means is that it will absorb a lot of what? Water. It will absorb a lot of water. I've already explained the mechanism of osmosis, the mechanism of oncotic pressure. So oncotic pressure will be increased in the vessels. If oncotic pressure is increased in the vessel, it will draw water onto itself. So that means that the hormone that was responsible for this thing is vasopressin or anti-diuretic hormone. Anti-diuretic hormone. And it is produced in response to decreased blood volume. Decreased blood volume and also increase in plasma osmolarity. Increased in plasma osmolarity. So here, your answer is what? Is vasopressin. Vasopressin or antidiuretic hormone. All right. Hypertensive glucose solution was introduced to a patient. So that means that there's too much of what? Glucose into the, how do you call it? It was introduced. So what will happen? So again, if you're introducing too much of what? Glucose, what it means is that the cells become what? Hyper, right? The cells will become what? Hyper. Cells will become what? Hyper. So it will intensify what movement? Hypertensive glucose solution. Hypertensive glucose solution. Hey, this can also be confusing because when they say hypertensive, it means too much of what? Fluid. It can also mean too much of what? Fluid. It can cause too much of what? Of fluid. However, glucose can pass through the capillaries into the interstitium or the intercellular space. Glucose can pass through the capillaries into the interstitium or intercellular space, but it does not readily enter the cells or did not enter the cells. Therefore, it will increase the oncotic pressure in the interstitium and therefore will cause water to move from the interstitium from the cells into the interstitium, from the cell into the interstitium or the intercellular space, intercellular space. So that's what this was talking about. So here we are looking at for E, movement from the cells to the intercellular liquid. Of course, you can argue with me that how do you call it? Fluid should move from the intercellular liquid into the cell or into the capillaries. But this is quite different. This was a hypertensive glucose solution. Hypertensive glucose solution was administered. And again, we're not too sure whether it was given intravenously or intramuscularly. We don't know. Okay, so intravascularly or intracapillary, then, or into the veins, obviously, there will be movement from the interstitium into the capillary beds or into the cell. But over here, the opposite is true. There will be movement from the cell to the intercellular liquid. So here, we're looking at E. At E. All right. To prevent long-term effect of a 4-day malaria, a 42-year-old patient was prescribed Primaquine. On the third day from the beginning of the treatment, there appeared ulcer and heart pains, dyspepsia, general cyanosis, hemoglobinuria. What is the side effect of this preparation? I mean, the side effect of Primaquine. And this is actually one of the reasons why we hardly use Primaquine nowadays, because it normally leads to GSPD deficiency, or it destroys GSPD deficiency. That is what glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So what is the effect? The effect is that there will be genetic insufficiency of the glucose 6-phosphate hydrogenase. So here you are thinking of A. According to the audiometry data, a patient has a disturbed perception. Guys, I talk about perception. This is medium frequency sound. So for medium, you go in for For middle part of the helix. Middle part. No, for me to explain all this because I've already explained to you guys. The helicotrema, the over window, please. So over window is for high frequency. The helicotrema is for low frequencies. A 17-year-old boy fell seriously ill. The body temperature is 38. There appeared cough, rhinitis, lacrimation, and nasal discharges. What type of inflammation is it? Obviously, you are thinking of a catarrhal type of inflammation. Sometimes patients even know this. They say, I have a catarrh. When they say they have catarrh, it means they are coughing, they are having runny nose, that's rhinitis or inflammation in the mucosa of the nose. That's what nasal discharges when they say they are having catarrh. So this phenomenon is what? Catarrhal inflammation. So here you are looking at for catarrh.